Welcome on in, everybody. Bradley here, and I'm so excited because today we finally got a taste of Civilization 7. Developer Firaxis hosted a live stream earlier where they showed off gameplay footage from the Antiquity age, and because the internet works on binaries, I'm going to go over the best and the worst things that happened in this live stream. The gameplay that most increased my excitement to get my hands on Civilization 7 is going in the best category. The things that most decreased my excitement to get my hands on Civilization 7 is going in the worst category, and I think with those rules established, it's time to hop right into the gameplay live stream. The first best thing that happened, and it made me really excited when it happened, was that Carl's here. Look at Carl, eyes closed. I picked the wrong screen grab for this, but that's okay. If you don't know who Carl is, he's a dev. He hangs out in our live stream sometimes. He's super active within the Civ community. He's just a wonderful dude who's such a good ambassador for his game, and is just really passionate about the whole scene and the content creators and Civilization. And Carl was on the stream playing the game, and I was really excited about that. First best thing that happened. There has been a lot of discussion in the community over the past couple of weeks about Firaxis removing builder units from the game, and so I wanted to reserve my judgment until I saw how that would play out, and at least for what they showed in this live stream, I got really excited about this. This just seems like an optimization. How this works, and I think I grabbed the right screenshot for this, you're going to have your resources here, and as your city grows and you kind of go and grow into those resources, you will automatically put down whatever goes on top of them, a mine, a farm, a pasture, whatever. However, to get the yields for those things, you have to unlock them in the science tree here, right? So you can see if we unlock pottery, down here it says +1 food on plantations. So if I go over a plantation resource with my city, I'll automatically put a plantation there. I just won't get anything from it until I tech into it in the tech tree. This is a great optimization. It prioritizes science a little bit more. It removes my need to just run around with a builder to just build things I was always going to build anyway. And I really like this as an optimization. It really just, as they were explaining, I was like, yes, I really enjoy that. You can see here with animal husbandry, this is maybe even a better example. 1 production on saw pits, 1 food on pastures, 1 production on camps and woodcutters. These are all things that seem like they're kind of automatically going to happen if you have animal husbandry and those kinds of tiles, which is something I can really get behind. I think that's really cool. Now, I do want to say before we move on, I'm obviously aware there are things that you need to build. This is only applying to tiles that would have an improvement made by a builder. There are still things you could put down like granaries. I just don't know, because I have not played this game, what is something that gets automatically built and what is something that you have to build yourself. I'm just expressing happiness at the fact that all of these things I would normally use a builder for, like placing a plantation on some cotton or something, is going to automatically be done, and then I can just get those yields from the tech tree. I'll take this moment to briefly talk about the UI. As a PC player, I just haven't put much thought into the UI. What's going to happen is this game is going to release within a week. There's going to be a mod called, who's its best UI mod, and I'm going to download the UI mod that I want. But for console players, the UI is pretty important. I was sufficiently whelmed by the UI. However, I wanted to point out something here within these like city screens. I really enjoyed this. It has a quick breakdown of all your yields. It has the things you can build. This seems like a really simplistic UI that I can understand really easily. Even saying something like ageless on the granary lets me know a lot about the game. It gives me the context that within these 3 different ages, there is going to be buildings that are only buildable in the age that they are, buildable, right? Where a granary you can build in any age. There'll be other buildings you can only build within some ages. And that's something that I enjoy as a gameplay mechanic. So I'm going to shift this from a UI conversation really quickly to this ageless thing that was on top of the granary here. I think that's a really cool addition to Civ, that there are some things that you can only build in the ages in which you unlock them, or in the ages in which they're relevant, and after you move out of that age, they're kind of gone forever. I think that's a cool idea, and I might be extrapolating a little bit, but that's what I saw when I saw this ageless thing. I was like, yes, there's going to be things you can only build within the age that they are relevant. City growth was also something I got really excited about. Not the exact way they chose to do it, to be honest, but just the idea that I have more control over where my city expands. I would have preferred a system like Civ 6, but you just get to choose the tile that it expands to instead of some random dumb tile that you don't want. But this is also really cool as well. What happens here is, as you can grow your city, you will place down something on one of these tiles here. As you can see, the tile he's hovering over will give you a mine. So that's one of those automatic improvements I talked about earlier. And then if he picks this tile here, it's going to culture bomb the next 3 tiles, which is super cool. It's a cool way to be able to choose the direction in which your city is growing. And to grow 3 tiles at a time, it seems like a lot to me. I'm not sure how that'll play out with the pacing. In this example, he chooses to come down here and kind of culture bomb these 3 tiles. But I really enjoy the idea that I can choose more directionally where my cities are expanding to. So Carl's explaining here that he wants to come down to this resource down here, whatever resource that is. So he's going to pick this tile because it'll culture bomb here, and that'll get closer to this tile over here. So this includes some really interesting gameplay routes where you might not even really want the thing that goes on this tile. Maybe you really want this mine, but you have to make a choice because you also really want this tile. So if you get this mine, your city's moving in the wrong direction. So maybe you have to take something suboptimal here to get down to the tiles you want. I'm really interested in that kind of gameplay loop. I'm interested in that kind of strategy, and I think that's super cool. Maybe there's something in the ocean here that you want to build, so you come and take this tile with the fish and you move your way down here. All of these things are pretty fascinating to me, and I got really excited watching him kind of see the city grow. Are we at a good spot where he's actually going to do it? Come on, Carl. Come on, do it, man. Skip ahead 5. Another 5. Another 5. Oh my God, Carl. Let's hurry this up. There we go. So he put the granary down, or he kicked the tile here, and then the city expanded, which is super cool. It's going to be hard for me to cover everything, but I really want to. The scout unit here has some really interesting mechanics. Instead of just wandering around and looking at things, there are other options. You can kind of look out your scout and kind of place it on one tile and give it an extended viewing radius, so you can use it as a scout. So it kind of just stands in one spot and kind of looks out for enemies or whatever, which I think is super cool. But just shouts to more scouting options, really. The next thing has something going into the best category and the worst category for my first worst of the day. And so let's talk about it here. We have our goody huts. We have our discoveries, I think they're called. And with the discoveries, the good, the best, is that you can choose what you'd like. I'd love to have that option in Civ 6, even if it was only like, let's say there's 10 options: the gold, the builder, the scout, whatever it is. If it gives me a choice of 2 of those 10, that'd be wonderful. Just so I can at least have a choice, I think is a really interesting mechanic here. I like this here. You can either take the supplies and take the gold, or you can add happiness to your empire, which we'll talk about in a second. What I don't love, though, is this, like, I get it that it's cool. It's cool to, like, think about, and I'm sure it's cool to design, but every 4X game that has done this has just been disappointing to me, and I just don't care after the first playthrough. They've added a little bit of lore to everything, right? So soldiers have just been here. Their campfires are still warm, and their supplies packed in anticipation for their return. However, just now all is still and quiet. These kind of things, they do add depth. They add a little bit of immersion. They do make you feel like this is a real lived-in world. Like this discovery didn't just show up here for no reason. At the same time, though, I always feel like they just add a lot of like mental stress for me, because I'm just gonna, regardless of what this says narratively, I'm always just gonna take the best option for my empire. And I almost find it harder to role play in this way, because I just always really, really want to take the best option. So I know this is a niche thing, and maybe I'm just a little bit jaded from Old World, which had way too many pop-ups and way too many narrative kind of challenges coming up. But I like the idea of getting a choice. I don't know if I need everything in a game to have a narrative behind it, because it just feels like a lot more work to me, or for me to kind of keep understanding what's happening, even though I'm just going to take the best option anyway. It almost feels like these cities might be expanding a little too quickly, and I just don't know until I play it. But when he puts this granary down here, again, this is something that culture bombs and expands your city's borders, which I get really excited about. You can see, too, this is a way to show off rural versus urban districts, which I don't fully understand, and I suspect I'm not meant to fully understand based on this live stream and based on the fact we haven't got to the other 2 ages, which I'm sure play around a lot with this more. However, it says here, convert to an urban tile. So I'm putting down a granary. I'm putting down a more urban district type building in my city, and it will build over the woodcutter, which is more of a rural tile, which I find interesting. So we'll see if certain civs have rural or urban kind of ways to play the game. But I do love here the idea that placing down these granaries and these buildings, they don't just get built in your city center, they become part of the city. They become part of the city growth. They become part of the thing that you're building, instead of just kind of getting lost in the city center tile. I can really get behind this. I think it's really cool. Celebrations are something I'm really excited about, but I think they showcase one at the end, so we'll kind of wait till we get there. However, choosing a government impacts your celebrations, and I just love this so much. So we're choosing a government here. Each government gives a set of choices during a celebration, and then during that celebration, you can get the 20% culture for 10 turns, 15% production towards wonders. So you're choosing these governments, but it's not a set of yields that you get every single turn. You have to earn a celebration to get them. I like what I can do is I can lock in the thing that I want, and then I know I can play towards that thing. You know what I mean? Like, I like that idea that I have to kind of choose now what I want when I get a celebration, and then I can manage my happiness to get to that celebration whenever I think it would make the most sense. And so I really like that gameplay mechanic, and I think this is really a really cool way to interact with the governments with something I do really like as an idea, which is the celebration. It's a weird angle, but another thing that I really loved is that there are Civ-specific civics. That's a lot of C's in one sentence there. But you can see discipline and mysticism. These are things that are unlockable by all Civs. They're kind of just in the civic tree that you're used to. But Civis Romanus and Exercitus Romanus, my Latin is off a little bit. I did not take Latin in school. Anyways, these are unique to Rome, the Civ that they're playing in this. And so I like the idea that the civic tree, or maybe the science tree, I'm not sure. I haven't seen all the Civ abilities, obviously, but I like the idea that the civic tree and the tech tree can be impacted by the civ that you chose, and you have civics and techs available to you that just aren't available to the other people playing, and they can have their own unique things going on. I think it adds a level of immersion to the game that I think is really interesting. And I also wonder what happens, like, if I don't take these two civics in this era and I move on to the exploration age, and then I get, you know, another civ going on here because you're switching civs. These Rome ones, are they still available for me? Do I lose them? Do I have to get these to move on? I just like the idea that these civ-specific civics exist. We have another best and worst. I see there are things I didn't like. Before you say that I love this game too much so far, I really did love this live stream. However, there were some things that I didn't love so much. So the first thing I didn't love is they mentioned in this clip here, they got rid of the Eureka and the boosts for the science and civic tree. That is a mechanic I loved so much in Civ 6. I liked being able to pick the way I wanted to move through the tech trees and be able to kind of boost my way there. Not only because that was a cool way for me to like decide how I wanted to play the game, but because some of the boosts are a little bit obscure, it was a cool way for me to interact with parts of the game that I wouldn't interact with otherwise. It was only on stream the other day after thousands of hours that I actually built 2 biplanes to get the biplane boost, and I got to discover a whole new aspect of the game just because I was boosting my way through the trees. So that was just a personal thing I really loved. I'm so sad to see it gone. I thought that was a really cool addition to Civ 6. However, they've replaced it with a system here where these pop-ups will come up. I'm not sure what prompts these pop-ups, but what you can do is you can kind of take on these challenges where you can build 3 monuments. If you listen to the senator, you can have a commander with 3 promotions, or you can just, you know, not interact with it at all. So you can take on these challenges, and I'm sure they give you production or culture or whatever it is. But you can pick this, like build 3 monuments, and then you have to go into the game and do that to get the yield that you're going for. And so I like that they, you know, decoupled it and at least kept it in the game to some capacity, but I really dislike that they decoupled it from the trees because I just personally loved doing that in Civ 6. Well, this wasn't the most exciting thing that happened. It did make me feel better about the game, and so we'll talk about it here. There's an influence system, and so as you're playing through the game, in the top here, you can see we're getting plus 10 influence per turn. The gameplay obviously did not go over all the ways you can spend your influence, but I meet a new Civ here, I meet Ashoka here, right? And you can have your normal neutral greeting, but you can spend 13 influence in either a positive or a negative direction to kind of start building your relationship. And the way this works later is I don't know if this is happening soon. So he takes the friendly option, and I wonder if this is something I can show off now. Yeah, so he takes the friendly option here, and then once they're friends, there's a trade screen here, and you can do your normal open borders, and that costs influence, which I love. I love that this is more diplomatic. It's not just a trade menu. There's an actual currency you're exchanging here in terms of your kind of diplomacy. However, there's these cultural exchanges. There's these things you can do where both of you benefit. I don't know how that'll play on deity. I don't know if I want to give yields to the deity AI. But it says here, if accepted, you receive 4 culture per turn. The other leader receives 2 culture per turn. I think that's really interesting that you can have these cultural exchanges that, you know, change your relationship, but also give both parties yields early on. I like the idea that I can meet a civ and through our kind of collective action work together to boost each other's civilizations. I think that's a really interesting gameplay loop that I'm excited to explore. Evidently, I can also go the other route and just say hinder civic study. I like the idea that I can go and ruin another civic tree. However, I rue the day that the deity AI is going to do that to me. I will lose my mind and probably break my computer. The way cities are settled is still a big unknown to me because, again, until you play it, you just don't know. But this was maybe the second most exciting thing that happened, aside from commanders, which we'll talk about in a moment. But the way this works is your opening unit, your first one, settles a capital city. It's called a founder, I believe, and it's a separate unit from a settler. The settlers now, they have defense, so you can't just surprise war, declare, and take them, which is a little lame, but that's okay. What they do is they settle towns, and then your town is going to grow. You're growing the town. Once it hits 7 population, which I don't know how long that takes to get to 7 pop, though that could be a lot or a little, who knows. You can start having focuses for your town. So +5 healing to units and +25 health to walls in this town is really great. +1 production on camps, woodcutters, clay pits, and mines. This is all really interesting. So your town can kind of focus on a very specific thing and then route that into your empire so you can use it somewhere. All of the production that a town gains becomes gold, so you can buy buildings in your town with the gold you're gaining from the production, which is interesting. And then your towns can also become your cities, so you can leave them as towns, or you can spend some currency. I'm not sure how you upgrade a town to a city. Maybe I wasn't paying attention. Maybe they didn't go over it. But your towns then become your cities, and I love the idea that there's a step between just taking a settler and settling a city, that in between you're going to have this town that is actively contributing to your empire, but it means you need to plan ahead a little bit more. It means you need to have a little bit more foresight about what you want to do with your towns and cities. I think adding that extra step 2 adds so much more gameplay opportunity for the civs that could have towns give you more things for your empire. You have specific things your town can focus on that other civs don't, or you have cheaper town to city upgrades. I don't know what it is, but just adding this in here, in my head, I can imagine so many great gameplay loops that don't exist when it's just either a settler or a city. And so I'm really excited about this. And now we've got to my favorite thing that happened in this live stream. The definite best possible thing that happened was the commander units. In Civilization 7, there are no more great generals. You have commander units. These commander units kind of suck up your army. In the stream, they were really clear. They don't actually eat the army and spit it back out, but they kind of eat the army and spit it back out. So you can put your army in your commander unit and run it around the map. It actually is beneficial to do that. The game encourages you to do that. They mentioned that this commander moves faster if you have your units inside of it. And so when the units are inside of the commander, they get to where they're going a lot faster. That commander is the only thing that gets upgrades. And so the units, as they acquire experience for fighting, will give that experience to the commander, who then gets all the upgrades. This is the upgrade tree for this commander specifically. I don't know. Rome has specific commanders, so I don't know if this is representative or not. We can't actually see what each of these is, but we have leadership, maneuver, logistics, assault, and bastion. So you can have some commanders, if you're on the defensive, that are good at kind of hunkering down. That'll give you bonuses for defending your own empire. You can go on the attack here. I'm not sure what logistics could mean, but you can kind of really modify your combat commanders, not just to go and ruin the enemy's life, but to play a defensive game. One of the things I like doing in Civ 6 most is getting archers with the improvement that gives you +10, the garrison improvement or whatever it's called, that gives you +10 combat strength when you're in a district. I just love the idea that your commanders are doing that. If we take a look at the commander here, there is a kind of movement range that is blue. So that's how far your commander can move, which you can see. Imagine, like, oh my god, in Civ 6, this would be 5 different units that could all only move 1 tile. Look how far you can move this commander in one go. I'm so excited to be able to move my armies like this. It's incredible. And then there's this command range. So in this command range, any units here, if they're fighting within the command range, they will get whatever bonuses the commander gives them. So if you've teched in, let's say you've teched into the commander and it gives everyone +2 combat strength or whatever, right? That'll happen if they're in the command range, but that's also how you get the experience. If your units are fighting outside of the command range, the experience won't go to the commander, is my understanding. And so it's a really cool way to kind of have to navigate your armies. I want to see if I can find the clip where he kind of spits the army out, if you're not as aware of how cool this is. I will find the clip where the commander spits the units out for later, but the next thing I'm really, really excited about, and there was a lot in this stream that I really, really loved. These milestones seem super cool as you progress through the Antiquity age here. Some civs are good at military. That's what they're doing with Rome right now. They showed one later that's good at gold and economics or whatever, right? You're going to be able to complete these milestones and earn these points. Now, these milestones and points are good for golden ages, which is awesome. We didn't learn a ton about golden and dark ages other than that they exist, so I won't talk about them here. However, I like the idea that you can kind of focus on military, culture, science, or economic. These legacy paths seem separate from the victory ones right now because there's two different things going on here. But as I gather these legacy points, it says here, where is it? Oh, can I find the perfect timing here? Here it is. I found the perfect timing. Gain one militaristic legacy point spent for bonuses in the next age. So as you're collecting these legacy points, when you get to the next age, you then get to spend those legacy points on, I don't know if it's keeping some of your current abilities, if there are new abilities that you'll be able to spend these points on. But the idea that the decisions you make now will impact your legacy in the next era, like you're going to change civs, but if you are a military civ in this era, you get to take all those military legacy points and still have some military might in the next era, regardless of what civ you pick. Same with economics, science, culture, etc. I just think this is a really cool gameplay mechanic. Even if it sucks on release, the idea that the decisions I make now give me choices for things that I can kind of integrate into my civs later is awesome. But I like that it's based on what you're doing. So if I'm playing a military civ and I'm getting these legacy points, I'm not going to be able to tech into the science ones or the culture ones or the economic ones because I'm not getting those legacy points. Incredible stuff. I love this gameplay concept. They showed us one of the science trees here. So it says next step. Some technologies and civics have a second, more advanced tier that can be researched once the base version is complete. These advanced techs and civics will award you with a codex of knowledge that can be placed inside a library. Cool. I don't really know what that means. Next objective, library, and earn a codex by completing research on writing 2. So these are your next steps. These are how you are accruing these points here. It's the same thing I just talked about before, but I really love this idea. I found the moment, everybody. It is happening. Carl is about to deploy his units. So you can see here he has this legatus, whatever it is. This is his commander. It has 5 promotions. We don't really know what they are exactly. But he is going to click this button here, and it's going to kind of splay his units out instead of having to move them individually. Now, I do wonder, it shows on the right side here what units he has to move out. I do wonder how it decides which tile what units go on, because in this clip, it puts all the melee ones at the front and the ranged ones at the back, which makes the most sense to me. But I do wonder how the game decides to do this, but we're putting this in the best category because this is awesome. Let's see if it works here. Click it, baby. Oh my goodness. Just the relief I feel from not having to move that many units is incredible. Now he's moving this guy out of the command radius though, so that's a little silly, but that's okay. The next thing that's going in the best category is definitely the idea of specialists. My only criticism of this is that it seems pretty bare bones at the moment. It says here that you can add a specialist to a tile. This is for kind of tall empires. I don't know how to accrue specialists or how they work, or do you get less specialists if you have more cities? I don't know how to, categorize a tall or a wide empire, but I like the idea that in these tiles here, your specialists add something to them. It obviously depends on what's on the tile because here it's adding 2 science, adding 2 culture, and removing 2 food and 2 happiness, which is interesting. But here it's still removing 2 food and 2 happiness, but you're getting 4 science and 3 culture. So maybe there's a science-y district or something down here. I have no idea. But I like the idea that these specialists can get unlocked. And at the cost of like 2 food and 2 happiness, I can add a certain amount of science or culture or whatever it is. I think it's a really cool mechanic. This is a little bit weird to me because I have some questions about how this works, but I love the idea of it, which is we're in the idea stage of Civ 7 right now. Until I play it, everything's an idea, and so we're in the idea stage, and I'm liking this a lot. I actually took a minute to research what we talked about earlier with the science thing where you have like a mastery of the text, and I'm going to decide this is going in the best category. I love this a lot. Now, the one thing that's not here about the tech tree, so it ends here mathematics and ironworking, and that's the end of the era. It doesn't say how we are all getting to the new era. Do we all get to the new era, the new age at the same time? Can one person be in the new age while I'm still in this age? I have no idea. I would assume so, but who even knows right now? But here, let's say I get to engineering and I really love engineering and it unlocks something for me, or bronze working here, it unlocks archers, right? And then I'm like, you know what? I got 3 or 4 archers and I really want to mess up the enemy. I'm going to master those archers. I'm going to make them better. Screw engineering, screw mathematics. I'm going to double down on these archers and make them amazing. I think that's a super interesting way to make the game more interesting, to add more depth without having to do any additional work. I mean, the balancing, I'm sure, is a lot of work, but in terms of the concept, it's like take all the ones and just double them up and make them better. Like you can kind of spend your science going into something that's cooler. Like imagine in Civ 6, if I okay, I'm not going to be able to get to field cannons by the time this guy messes me up, but I could master the crossbows and they could have extra range or something. I love the idea of that, and so this is going in the love category. I bet you're all realizing right now that I have a lot more things I loved than I didn't like. I think we're on 2 things I didn't like so far. That's still more than I was thinking was going to happen. Anyways, this is just incredible. We have these resources. We have this salt here. We can assign it to whatever city we want. So if you want to, make your capital the home institution of your empire, you can keep assigning resources there. It's not clear how you get these slots for the resources to be able to put them in your city, if it's population based, if it's district based, etc. But the idea that I can have my salt resource that's going to give me, let's say, it gives me production, and I can choose which city that's going to go into is wonderful. The only thing I don't love as a concept is they removed the way you can just passively trade with the AI, and that's something that's going in the worst for me. I liked the idea that, and maybe this is just something I need to play around with to understand more. Maybe I'm misunderstanding. In Civ 6, the AI was bad at it, so it was a little bit abusable. But I like the idea that I could just make a simple exchange of goods with another empire. I can say, hey, I have this gypsum, you have that gold. Do you want to buy this gypsum? And they can just say yes. Regardless of the rest of our relationship, I can just go in and make trades. I understand why the open borders or the war declarations or anything like that is in a more complicated system with the influence mechanic that they got going on, but I do like the idea that I can just make simple trades with empires, because it's like, hey, you've got a lot of iron, I've got a lot of money, but I don't have a lot of iron. Can I just give you some money for some iron? Or you've got a lot of iron, I've got a lot of salt, can I give you some salt for some iron? I just think that kind of very simple trading mechanic seems, like a nice gameplay loop, and it just seems more realistic to me. So I'm a little bit sad that they've gotten rid of that, but otherwise the ability to assign these resources to cities is wonderful. Finally, before we finish off here, I just have a few little pickup projects that I want to talk about, whether good or bad. This wasn't my original idea. I watched this live stream twice today, once on my own. I just watched it just to form my own opinion. And then I watched Potato McWhiskey's kind of reaction to it. I wanted to watch it again. I'm like, hey, it'd be cool to get it from someone else's point of view. So I watched Potatoes, and it didn't really occur to me. But now that he's mentioned it, I just can't get it out of my head. And I think it might actively be bad. And I don't know what it is. It didn't bother me until it was mentioned to me. When that happens sometimes, but now that it's been mentioned to me, I just prefer it the way we have it now. I do find, and I agree with Potato and a lot of other people who have this opinion, that it's just really not as cool to have the two leaders kind of facing each other and doing this whole thing, because I'm the leader. Like, they're playing against me. Like in Civ 6, I like that they were facing me and swinging their sword around at me and not just at the other leader. I feel like it's 1 degree removed from me being the leader. Like, I am Rome, I am Augustus, I am fighting you, not this other dude with the weird haircut. You know what I mean? I know Potato mentioned it, but it's bothering me now, and now that it's bothering me, it's got to go in the worst category. The next thing going in the worst category, and I actively cannot believe that they still are doing it this way, and I don't know why. Maybe it's a code thing. Maybe there's some really deep gameplay foundational reason that I'm just not understanding. They confirmed in this stream that the way the city works with in terms of the tiles you can work is the same, and so you can only work 1, 2, 3 tiles out, but your city can still grow past that, right? So as I'm building up my city, as I'm culture bombing everything, I can get a tile in the 4th and 5th ring, but I can't actually work those tiles, and that makes absolutely no freaking sense to me. And I know that it's possible because in Civ 6 there's a mod called Cip Ryan's Wide and Tall where you can work the 4th and 5th tiles. So I know that there is a possibility in the game. It makes no sense to me, and it actively bothers me that if I'm trying to play a tall game with fewer cities that have larger borders, because there's not as many cities taking up the space, that I end up capping out at the 3rd tile, even though my city can grow into the 4th and 5th tile. Like, it makes much more sense to me to just have my city just not be able to grow that far if I can't use those tiles. I always get really because it just I don't know what the gameplay reason is, but it also just breaks my immersion. It's like, okay, so I'm Rome, and there's iron over here, and that's 1, 2, 3, 4 tiles away. So I've culture bombed out here. The iron is in my city. The AI can't work it. No one can work it. It's in my city. For sure in my city. But I can't work it even though it's in my city. Like, I just don't understand that as a gameplay thing. I really didn't like it in Civ 6, and they've confirmed that's coming back for Civ 7. And it's just like, ugh, like it doesn't even impact you all that often, but every time I've been impacted by it, it just makes me really, really frustrated. The other thing going in the worst category, and this wasn't in the gameplay, it was just mentioned, is they kept the wonder system the same. And I may have misheard them, and they haven't really showcased it in this gameplay, because they kind of just jumped from game to game to show you what they needed to show you. But they mentioned that they've been losing wonder races to other civs, and I just thought that for sure 100% they would take a look at humankind and how they did the wonder system, because they did it with the commanders, right? Like, where are the commanders at? Can I see the commanders here? Are these the, yeah, so they did it with the commanders here. In humankind, you can, it's a little bit different of a system, but basically your army can just bunch up on a tile and then you can deploy them in a battle. You know what I mean? And they've kind of taken that concept here and kind of really run with it. I thought for sure they would be all over the concept of being able to claim a wonder and then build it whenever you want to build it. So later on here, where is it here? Somewhere here, yeah, it's the Roman Colosseum or something that's right here in the civics. So there are wonders, yeah, the Colosseum here, +3 culture, +2 happiness. There are wonders you can build, but there are also wonders that the AI can build, so you're still competing for some of these wonders. And what I don't like about that is it'd be really cool, like in Civ 6, if I could just claim the pyramid. So I get X amount of culture, whatever the currency is or whatever the unlock condition is, I get that thing, and then I can pick a wonder, and I just claim that wonder. So I'm going to claim the pyramids, or I'm going to claim Machu Picchu, or I'm going to claim whatever, and then I can build it whenever I can in the game, right? Because what sucks is you start, you have a really good city, you're going through the game, you're going through the culture tree, you're unlocking the pyramids nice and early, but you're not going to have a desert tile to build them until your third city. It's like, okay, well, that really sucks, because it just takes away the gameplay strategy of it. Like, I would love to be able to, like, okay, I'm going to go into the game, I'm going to look at the map, I can see that my next city is going to have desert, so I'm going to claim the pyramids now, and then I'm going to put that next city in the desert, and then, right, like, I can add that strategy to it. And they mentioned that the wonders are going to be very similar in the sense that they're still claimable by anybody, and I'm just not a fan of that. It bothers me in Civ 6, and it's just, it seemed like such a good opportunity to kind of elevate into a new way of doing it that's less frustrating and added more strategy. And I'm a little bit surprised they chose not to go down that route. And finally, the last thing I want to talk about are the unique districts. This is going in the best category. The artwork is wonderful. I think it's this one right here. Each civ, or at least they mentioned that Rome or a couple of the civs, have 2 unique specialty districts that you can put down on these tiles, and you can either put them separately. If you put them separately, they'll do whatever they do, give you science, give you culture, give you gold, whatever. But if you put them together, they create like a unique district quarter that doesn't quite combine both of their yields, but gives you a separate kind of unique thing. So you can make the choice, do I want my own unique district quarter made of my 2 kind of unique districts, or do I want those to be separate and get the separate yields that they give? Again, that's something that adds a little bit of immersion. It's great artwork, but it gives me a choice as a player. I can take the yields separately, I can put them together. It's just giving me more options to strategize around my civ, the thing that I picked, and I just really, really love that. And that's going to be it for now, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments below what your best and worst of the Civ 7 live stream was. I'm sure I missed a whole bunch of things, even that I'm excited or not excited about. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I'll be bringing you all the Civ 7 news as we have it. I hope you liked hearing my opinions about Civ 7. If you would like to continue, that subscribe button's there. The Discord is there. Thank you so much for watching and listening to this. I appreciate you all so much, and I'll see you next time. Hey friends, Editing VB here. Just wanted to say a quick few things as I was editing this video. I realized I never went back to the celebration screen to show it to you. That's okay though. I think I got everything I wanted to say about the celebrations as an idea, how the governments interact with it, how we're using happiness as a resource to kind of manage those celebrations. I loved all of that. The point stands that I just didn't go back to the screen. I didn't talk about the city limit at all. You'll have noticed the entire time on the top of the screen in the UI there is a city settle limit. That is because I was neither too excited or underwhelmed by it. I was kind of just like man neutral on the whole city limit thing. So once I learn more about it and I have an actual opinion, I'll talk about it. But if you're wondering like, hey, he didn't mention the city cap thing that's new, it's because I don't have any feelings on it. It was just kind of whatever to me as we were displaying it. And finally, the last thing is, while I was editing, I noticed a trade route screen in the gameplay they showed where it shows the trader going to a place. It gives you a couple options and you can bring some resources back on that trade route. Once I learn more about the trade routes and how they work, I might change my opinion on whether they should just put back in or keep out the simple 1-for-1, like I have iron, you have gold kind of trades. But my opinion for now stands, as I don't know much about those trade routes. So I just wanted to say that. But yeah, thanks again for watching. I appreciate you all. Much love. We'll see you next time.